Hey yo, what is up, Knights? Aegis Rick here, bringing you guys episode 12 of the Arad Airways podcast. And it's been a few months, guys, since I've made my last one, and a lot of things have happened. We're going to just kind of condense most of that stuff. A lot of things have come and gone. Guys, in this podcast, though, we're going to be talking about... First, I want to give you guys an update on my video and stream release schedule, because I do want to try to make a schedule to make this more consistent so you guys can expect more content. I'll talk about that in a sec. I do want to talk about some of the new content that we've gotten ever since my last podcast. You know, level 100 cap has been out for a little while now. We've gotten things like Oculus hard mode, things like P.War challenge mode. Still no Sirocco raid, and it's been several months at this point, but we have been getting a lot of content in the form of awakenings, and that is another topic that we're going to talk about. Third awakenings. You know, so far as I make this podcast, we've had both of the Slayers, male and female Slayer, as well as the male Gunner, and just recently we just got the male fighter, and we know that the female fighter has got to be next. She's got to be the next one. And even in Korea, we already know there's a couple more already done, and those are going to be coming down the pipeline, and that's what we've kind of been hoping and expecting for the past few months here in DFO, and it's been a lot of fun, but hopefully Sirocco raid comes here soon. And then lastly, guys, I want to end the podcast talking about, I want to give a pep talk to Neople. And, you know, honestly, I doubt Neople will ever see this, but I just want to give, you know, my critical opinion on Neople right now, because I feel as though they're going down the wrong path in certain regards. And, you know, I love this game. I've been playing it nonstop. I've been supporting it nonstop. I've had nothing but good things to say about them. But because I love this game so much, I do feel like sometimes when you step out of line, or if you're not tip-top shape, I think the people who care the most are going to be the ones who are going to try to set you straight. So I want to take some time to complain about a few things that have been occurring in DFO, and I'll rant about that near the end of the video. So anyway, guys, enjoy the podcast, and let's start. Alrighty, guys, first things first, I want to talk about a schedule on the channel. I know as of late, you know, on YouTube and streaming, I've kind of just done whatever I wanted to do at any time, and I think that's kind of, you know, it's hard for you guys to expect content. You know, you might be expecting an Arad Airways or an update video, and I just never make it, you know, and I kind of hate that, where it's like, oh shoot, well, why didn't he do that? It's because I don't have a schedule. So guys, I want to have an official schedule, so something that you guys can hope for, and we'll see how well I stick to it. I'm gonna try to, at least starting here in September. So first things first, on the YouTube side of things, guys, this is coming right after I have released my first episode of the DFO Crash series that I'm starting. It's effectively just the PvE series for level 100. And, you know, I want to try to have maybe one of those every week. And I think I can manage to do that. A lot of my characters are ready to go, and I've already made all the graphics and stuff for DFO Crash in terms of like the pros and cons and stuff like that. I've already made a lot of those things, so I think I'm ready to go for at least once a week on those DFO Crash videos. I haven't determined the day, but just know that, you know, maybe expect once a week to see one of those. I'm gonna try to shoot for monthly or bi-monthly Arad Airways. It kind of depends on, you know, if there's anything I really want to talk about with Arad Airways. The thing is, you know, there's a billion things to talk about in DFO, and I know some people try to act, oh, there's nothing to talk about, there's nothing interesting about DFO. That's definitely not the case, and so I think I can manage at least one Arad Airways a month. You know, that was kind of the initial goal at the start, and then, you know, kind of fell off. Things have been happening, and I've kind of left some things on the table that could have been Arad Airways, so I want to try to do at least one a month. I want to at least do one update video a month, and a lot of people might think those are easy videos to make. Those are actually a lot harder because they are scripted, and, you know, they take quite a bit of time to compile all of this stuff. I want to try to do them all at least once a month, merely because sometimes we've had updates where I just don't feel like it's worth any effort to make the update video, because, you know, if it's anything like this male fighter Third Awakening, I mean, they really just didn't get anything all that interesting or worth my time making a video for it. But I want to at least promise that I can get you guys at least one update video, and then, you know, if there's really a lot of stuff worth talking about, then I'll spend the time to make the second. But lastly, guys, I also want to try to get you guys one scripted guide a month, and there's a million things I could talk about. You know, I've made a video on the swap system. I think that was one of the most important things that the game doesn't tell you about, but there's a whole lot of other important things that the game doesn't tell you about. I can rattle off a ton of guides that I feel like could be helpful. And people have made them in different formats before in the past, and, you know, there's some things that are brand new with 100 cap, for instance, and I think a lot of these guides probably need to be updated, and I think I can probably give you guys one scripted highly detailed guide a month as well. So that's where I'm kind of looking at with the YouTube schedule. A lot of things that are once a month, and the DFO Crash series, I think I can get you guys once a week. Now, in terms of the streaming schedule, which I have been doing a lot more streaming, guys, I do think I can give you guys Thursday and Friday guaranteed. I'm going to try to start at around 6 o'clock, and you guys can see the official streaming schedule if you go onto my Twitch channel. I'm going to try to do Thursday and Friday, with the wild card days being on Saturday and Sunday, mostly because I spend a lot of time on the weekends making videos, and I'm going to prioritize making videos first. And if I'm too lazy or if I'm not into making the videos, then I guess I can stream on the weekends too. I'm going to hold it out on either of those days for streaming. And then the only other days aside from Thursday and Friday that I'll stream is Tuesdays after updates, which we always get our updates on Tuesdays. So if we get an update, you can expect to stream as well there. So kind of that's really 2 guaranteed streaming days a week where you guys can expect to see me, and then a lot of wildcard days just in case if there's an update, or if I'm not feeling it on the weekend. So that's kind of where I'm leaning towards right now, and that will give me enough time to make videos and stream, and not trying to balance a stream video life here. But I just wanted to give that little update, guys. We'll see how close we stick to it. I'm going to try to stick to it because it helps me as well. If I just only go at my own pace, I'm just going to walk through most of this stuff, and by the time I end up getting around to making some of these videos, a lot of it will be outdated. So I don't want that to happen. Sticking to the schedule will help me, and I obviously will help you guys as well, just to know what to expect. But anyway, guys, moving on to the actual content of DFO Arad Airways. What is the first thing I want to talk about is the new content that we have gotten ever since the last podcast, which we got Oculus. So we've had the Oculus dungeon for a while now. Ever since then, they released the Oculus Hard dungeon, which I want to say is, I guess, the hardest content that exists in DFO currently. And quite frankly, a lot of us who are doing Oculus Hard don't find it all that hard. And the reason I say that is, again, a problem that I brought up in the last podcast was that, dude, the 100 epic scaling is too freaking high. It is so massive. You are so massively strong. It's not even funny that it's hard to design content at this point. It's like the range of people who are strong. We're talking, if you're strong, you can do 100 billion, or if you're even stronger, you can do 200 billion, or if you're actually like mega strong, 300 and 400 billion. Damage on your damaged character with no buffs. We're talking the range is 100 billion to 400 billion damage. From the low end of people who are already strong enough to do P.War challenge, you can go 4 times as strong as that, and that is the range of types of gear that people are wearing in Oculus Hard mode. It is absurd. It's crazy to think that people can get that strong. How do you balance content around that? You can't. You can't balance content around somebody who's fully decked out in epics, only doing 100 billion, and then if you really get the perfect epics and the perfect setups and amp your shit, you're doing 400. You can't balance the content around that. And again, I said it last time. I knew that it was an absurd thing, and it's showing itself here. I incorrectly said last time that the cut line for Sirocco was 200 billion. I was following some elitist Korean streamers who were only accepting people that strong, but you don't need to be that strong for Sirocco. I heard some people saying 100 bill, and you can do it pretty comfortably, stuff like that. I've heard various things, but again, this is what I'm talking about here, is that Oculus Hard gets released, and it's supposed to be the hardest content in the game, and if you have a full epic set and you got a decent composition, you're gonna be dominating Oculus Hard mode, and you're gonna be skipping gimmicks already. It's just, how do you balance a game with gear that is this diverse in terms of the potential output that you can put on your character? I think they overtuned it a little too much. Don't get me wrong, I like varying sets, I like the mythics, I like how the epics work. Some of them are pretty unique, but damn, this damage increase, especially when you compare it to the previous cap, is just absurd. And Oculus Hard is a great example as to, a great demonstration as to why that's the case, because Oculus Hard comes out and you just completely steamroll it without even looking. It's crazy, and that's the hardest content we got in the game. Now, that being said, guys, why would you run Oculus Hard? Quite frankly, I have found myself not really running it for any more reason than getting, an exclusive title for doing it. There is a slight reason why you might want to do it. If you do it on several alts, what you can do is funnel some of the returns that you get out of it by buying some pit chests, which allow you to pick up a level 100 epic pot, which you can give to your alts. So that's kind of the main reason I think a lot of people are doing it. It also is your source for some of the locked away Product of Wisdoms, which can be used for sets like Natural Guardian and other sets. Most of the time people are not doing it for that reason. Most of the time people are doing it for the level 100 pit chest, but at the same time, even that is not a guaranteed way to get epics on your ult. So quite frankly, I found myself that Oculus hard mode doesn't really serve much of a purpose. I've found that it's not really serving much use. I kind of wish that more rewards were useful for your high level characters. Maybe giving some different items would have been helpful. But aside from that, I think Oculus normal mode serves a lot more useful functional purpose with the Ditto epic than hard mode even does with its pit pod and POW pod. But that's just my opinion. Maybe you feel a different way about it, but mostly I've just been ignoring it thus far. P.War challenge comes out. P.War right now is, I wouldn't say dead content, because again, something I complained about in the previous podcast is that P.War is something you're still doing on level 100 cap just because it's completely RNG based. You must have run that thing hundreds of times at this point, and you still might not have the talismans you want. Luckily for me, I was complaining about my monk not getting the talismans he wants. Finally did end up getting that last talisman I could never get with the corkscrew blow, but finally getting that, and then, come to find out, Korea releases 2 new talismans that are higher level, and we're going to have to do it all over again in another dungeon. But that's not really the topic I want to talk about today. Today I want to talk about P.War challenge mode. And the reason that you do P.War challenge mode, what it is basically, it is a hard version of P.War that you can only run solo. And it's hard in the sense that you can really only realistically do this if you are in full 100 epics, or you can get close to full, maybe close to 100 bill, and you can do this pretty quickly without getting the swords, because it's still the same dungeon as P.War. You have to unlock the key as well as the magic rune dungeon to unlock the final boss against Arposa, and you always have the option to pick up the swords. Generally, you don't want to pick up the swords. They just take longer to do. So to be strong enough to skip the swords and still do challenge mode in a reasonable amount of time, you want to be doing, I think, close to 100 billion damage, and any more than that is just going to shave minutes off of your time. So the reason you do that, though, the boss drops, supposedly, I haven't seen it yet, but drops epics. You still get the chance of getting account bound talismans, which you can give to your alts. You have a higher chance of getting better talismans. I want to say mythics drop there as well. So yet another way for you to kind of utilize your high level characters in content as we wait for Sirocco raid. But, those two things, Oculus hard mode and P.War challenge mode, have been pretty much the only things that we can flex our muscles on. And I know there's some people out there who are kind of in the camp where DFO is getting kind of boring right now, and this is kind of one thing that I said is going to be a problem, is that with the power scaling the way it is, you need to constantly release content that's harder and harder to give you a reason or a means to utilize the new gear that we're farming up. Slowly but surely people are gearing up multiple alts. At least in my case, I'm gearing up multiple alts, and they're catching up to getting high levels of damage, and I have no real place to kind of utilize that. They do have challenge mode for things like 2+2. You can go into Black Shrine and do challenge mode of Black Shrine. I mean, there are places you can farm to just kind of waste your FP, but there really isn't a lot of content right now. And, we're just kind of hoping for that content to come sooner rather than later. Obviously, Sirocco raid to keep talking about. But then things like the new level 100 cap talisman dungeon. There's a brand new dungeon, and it's also going to be pretty challenging and hard. There's just, right now we're in a phase where we're just kind of like toned down in terms of the intensity. I mean, a lot of us are not really trying to hyper spend a lot of resources on our mains because we've already got a really strong epic set or something. So we're just, gearing alts and gearing satyrs and, optimizing a little bit here and there as we wait for Sirocco raid. But I did fear like this would be the case. And it's kind of weird, they're talking about trying to get all of the third awakenings for all the characters, and yet there seems to be no content regardless. We can't just do P.War challenge mode and Oculus hard waiting for content to get released. So it is going to be an issue here if we go any much longer without getting Sirocco. So hopefully that comes sooner rather than later, because honestly, if I'm being straight with you guys, I've been having a lot of fun playing my alts and not as much fun playing my mains, which has never really been the case with DFO. I think there's always been raids and stuff to challenge my mains, and my alts have always fallen to the wayside as the content keeps getting harder and harder. Not the case anymore with 100 cap. So again, a problem I have said that is going to be a problem here with 100 cap, and it's coming to fruition, but hopefully, we'll get the content here sooner rather than later. But anyway, guys, I kind of brought it up. 100 cap is a big swirl of things that they want to give us, which I'm happy for. They gave us an awesome epic system. Even if it's a little overtuned, they've given us, talismans that we can farm up, and a new raid we're going to be getting here soon. But the one thing that's kind of holding them up in terms of time has been their giant, enormous project of releasing Third Awakenings for all characters in the game. It is an enormous project. I can only imagine every day that freaking, the developers come into the office for Neople that they're just thinking about 3As and the next 3As and how it's going to look and, all the freaking art that they got to do and everything. It's been a huge project. And, one thing I'm going to commend Neople for DFOG is that they have been very, very consistent and very good at releasing that content in a quick manner for the DFOG server. Most of the time, honestly, we've been pretty content with getting content 6 months, 7 months after it had already been released in Korea. What you're going to notice when you look at this is that a lot of that stuff is getting translated over to the DFOG server so quickly. I'm saying within a few months kind of thing. Like, Male Slayer wasn't released all that long in Korea before we got it in like a couple months. We got it released with the female Slayers at the same time. And we'll talk about the release schedule in a sec. But I just want to commend Neople. Damn, they're releasing them quick. And, it's something that is bonus. I think a lot of DFOG players, we look at Korea and we know that, okay, we're not going to see that shit till 6 months. And that we've kind of accepted that. And Neople, DFOG in particular, has taken it upon themselves to release that stuff a lot sooner. So I want to give, a big congratulations to the DFOG team for allowing that to happen. But, that kind of comes with its own problems I'll talk about in a sec. But let's talk first about the actual 3As themselves and their release schedule. So first, what we've gotten was like I said, the female and male Slayers at the same time. And we had a pretty awesome event associated with it, which allowed us to gear one of those 9 Slayer characters pretty much instantly in legendary gear, and pretty much got them a full swap set and got them leveled really quickly. It was a really good leveling event, but it was only for one Slayer, so you had to pick one Slayer. And the cool thing is you could have actually picked any existing character, so you didn't have to make one from scratch. You can pick one up that you already had and kind of dump all of these resources onto. It was a pretty nice event. I wish that I didn't get punished for over-leveling my female's Majesty. My Majesty, I missed out on some of the event rewards because she was a little bit higher level than the prizes allowed, so I missed out on some prizes. But aside from that, guys, I geared one out really quickly. I didn't have to play her for more than a couple days. I already had her leveled up, and, I got a full level 100 legendary set pretty dang quick, and it was awesome. So I really liked that event. After that, guys, we got the male gunner, which... let's talk about the release schedule for a second, though. So, they supercharged the Slayer, the male Slayers. They released them way sooner than really they should have been. They supercharged that. And I think it was a good idea for them to release it like that because it kind of took care of the most popular character first. Okay, let's not get it twisted. Slayer, female or male, both of them are the most popular characters in DFO by far. If you just contend with all the characters in the game that people play. Okay, so it makes sense for them to release the Slayers, and then you look at the next characters to get released, and I would almost label them as probably some of the most unpopular characters in DFO. I'm talking male gunner, I'm talking male fighter. So those were the next 2 that were released: male gunner first, then the male fighter. And they have to release them at some point. It just kind of feels like, damn, the hype just got drained away. So they went with the big boom at the start with all of the most popular characters in the game, and then they released some of the most unpopular characters back to back. But that's just how it kind of turned out. And again, they were doing them pretty quick, so I'm not really even complaining about that. The one thing that we all can complain about, and the thing you probably know I'm going to talk about, though, is the events associated with it. Okay, because with the Slayer event, like I said, it was a really good release, and they released with some really good prizes, and they were not that hard to do, and you can use them in existing characters, and everything was hunky-dory, just like that. So the problem is with the unpopular characters, the male gunner and the male fighter, I mean, they just got released with progressively worse and worse events. Let's put it that way. And I know what people are going to say. People are going to say, hey, well, Rick, these are what Korea got. These are just the awakening events that Korea got. They copy and pasted in between the characters. Everyone got this event in Korea. And, I kind of look at that answer and, I kind of get a little angry. And I guess you can let this just be an appetizer to the main course that I'm going to be talking about at the end of this podcast. But honestly, I think Neople is going down the wrong path with their ideas that they have implemented with the male gunner and the male fighter events, okay? And let me just explain 2 reasons as to why it's bad idea that they're copying KDNF in terms of this event. First and foremost, I don't like the idea of copying anything or comparing DFOG with Korea in terms of anything. I made a kind of lengthy post on my Reddit, kind of talking about this, but we are nothing like Korea, okay? We have different populations, our economies are different. We've had events released at different times that gave different event rewards. Our accounts history are different. Literally everything is different in Korea. So you can't just copy and paste events from one server to another without taking all of those factors into consideration, okay? But even more importantly than that, and personally is what I think, is that Korea has objectively done some things wrong that were corrected in the DFOG server. And a good example to that is our version of the level 100 legendary farming 10 plus 10, or now it's 5 plus 5. Okay. It doesn't make sense that the other versions of the game take so long to farm their legendary sets, especially when you consider how fast you can get level 100 epic set and how much stronger that epic set is than the legendary. I don't understand why it takes so long for the other versions of the game to get their legendaries. Okay, we got it supercharged. We can get our legendaries very quick, but again, that makes sense because the epics are so much stronger and they're very easy to get. You shouldn't have to farm a legendary for months and months just so that you can replace it in 1 second if GOW drops an epic for you. So it makes sense in our server. It doesn't make sense in Korea. So don't just think, oh, just because Korea has it and all of their events are this way in Korea, that we should just accept it. No, I think Korea has it wrong and they should change how it is in Korea. So, for those 2 reasons, we're not the same server, and the fact that Korea doesn't always get it right, we can't always just copy and paste what the events are like in Korea. And quite frankly, I was going to talk about this in my update video I never ended up making for the male fighters. Instead, I made a joke update video. But the male fighters actually have it worse than the male gunners in terms of their event. You'll notice that the free rental level 100 legendary set is not 100% superior when you open the chest, which is obviously going to be a problem because most of the time you are not going to be enchanting anything is temporary gear and is going to be expiring. So you're just missing out on a ton of elemental damage by sheer virtue of them not giving you 100% superior. I don't know why the hell they're actually making you weaker than the level 100 legendaries that were given in the gunner event. You'll notice that all of the free level 100 legendaries, the 1 piece of legendary that you get, is no longer account bound like it was for the gunner, which is clearly defeating the purpose of making all of those alts. And you want to funnel all of your resources onto one character. You can't do it anymore. They want you to gear up all 3 or all 4 of them individually by not making their free legendary tradable. Okay, in the previous gunner event, you can just funnel all of your resources. You can funnel the plus 11 onto the one gunner that you wanted. You can't even do that anymore. So it doesn't even make sense. And lastly, I don't know why the hell they did this, but the tambourine cosmetic event item is untradable and tied to the plus 11 ticket. 2 things that are completely unrelated. One is a cosmetic event item and the other is a way to increase your damage permanently. Why are they put in the same chest? Are they stupid? Now, admittedly, I think they did the same thing for the gunners, but hey, that still doesn't give you an excuse. Separate those 2 items, please. But look, even if you got all of those things correct, it wouldn't even matter because at the end of the day, both the male fighter and the male gunner events are just not enticing at all for anybody to play. If your idea is to try to captivate somebody to play a character they otherwise might not want to, well, let me tell you, you have utterly failed in that regard. I don't think anybody is going to be like, yeah, let me go ahead and make 3 fighters just so I can play the one that I actually want to play. Screw that. I'm just going to ignore it, and I'm going to ignore DFO for the next month until they release something worth while. Let's just leave it at that. I just hope that later down the line they realize that these events are not appeasing and they're not really going to work for DFOG, especially when we talk about legendaries. I mean, they have a lot of events that revolve around legendaries, but it doesn't consider the fact that our legendary farming situation is so much easier than the other versions of the game. They've given us legendary transfer stones, free legendary pieces, but those account for maybe 2 days of grinding. It only takes us 2 days to get that many materials, so why are they constantly giving us this item as if it's a luxury like it is in KDNF? Okay? It's just baffling to me. But aside from that, guys, like I said, appetizer to the main course. 3As in themselves, what do I think about them? Because, I haven't given much of my opinion on them. I think they're awesome addition. I think it's very clear that sometimes the A team works on Awakenings and then the B team works on others. And it really is a shame when you look at some of these characters, how almost bland their Awakenings are. And then you look at somebody like, we're going to be getting the female grappler here pretty soon, battle mage here pretty soon, a lot of other characters who just have these awesome awakenings, third awakenings that make them so much better to play, so much more interesting to play with their passives and stuff that, it's a shame that some characters get a great treatment and then others, just kind of lackluster, here's more damage kind of stuff. But aside from that, I mean, everybody's going to be getting a damage increase. So if nothing else, you're going to be stronger than you were before, which is, again, what a lot of people have been abusing for this new content that has been released. A lot of people are, played a lot of Slayer characters who are now joining raids and stuff. But the one thing I'll mention, there's just been no hype for the 3As because of their release schedule. But I mean, lately, as for me, in my personal opinion, I don't main any of these male gunners or male fighters. I don't play hardly any of them. So it's been negative hype for me. Aside from Slayers, which I play a couple Slayers, but none as a main, I still haven't gotten my main characters. And quite frankly, I won't for my Knight situation. Dude, I'm probably going to be the last Third Awakening to get released, but I am really, really excited. Finally, my first actual main character getting her Third Awakening in the female fighters. I have 2 of them that are going to be really, really geared out. And then I'm going to be playing female grappler, as I just mentioned, has one of the best Third Awakenings we have seen thus far. Out of all of them, out of even the ones we don't have in DFOG, I mean, dude, Priest and Female Mage, those are also released in KDNF. We've seen previews of them, but they are not going to be anywhere near as cool as Female Grappler, and I can't wait to actually play one now, which is crazy to say. I mean, just imagine that for a second. Some of these could be so good that you can hate a character like I did with Female Grappler and make her into a character that looks and seems like she plays amazingly. They've changed her so much, and I can't wait to try her out. You could do that with 3A. You can absolutely fix a character with 3A, and they haven't done that as much as I kind of hoped they would. They kind of did that with a lot of characters. Weapon Master, for example, fixed a lot of the problems I had with him. Unfortunately, my main characters, the Striker and Brawler, don't seem to have gotten that same kind of treatment. Again, the B team was working on them. But I can't wait for the female fighters. I am actually excited for them, and it'll be the first time in a while that I've been excited for anybody with the 3A. So that's what I got to say about that. Lastly, guys, I want to end off with a little pep talk with Neople. Okay, I said I was going to talk about this, and what I really think is happening, guys, is I think we as DFOG are going down the wrong path. Okay, I have kind of given you guys the inner workings of Neople as to what they have been doing slowly over the past couple months. Okay, like I said earlier when I talked about the 3As, they have been releasing them in a very quick manner. Okay, so quick, in fact, that it seems as though DFOG and KDNF are working simultaneously. I mean, it almost seems like, when a 3A gets released in the offices of KDNF, they've already passed it on to DFOG to start working on it, so it's almost like they're working concurrently. So that's kind of explains why our release schedule on the Awakenings is as quick as it has been. I mean, like I said, on average, we're waiting about 6 months, and they've reduced that by half, if not more, so we are getting it only a couple months later, and it just goes to show that the priorities at the DFOG headquarters are different than they have been in the past 4 years of this game. Okay, they really want to get these Awakenings out, and they want to try to make us more like KDNF, be more in line with KDNF. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting with it, with the sheer fact that we're getting similar content updates and the fact that we're getting copy-pasted events, the same ones that KDNF got. That is the path that DFOG has been going down, and it is a path that I think is the wrong one. I think it is the wrong path that we should be taking. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I don't want to seem like I'm mad at Neople or hate Neople. Let's not get it twisted, okay? I love Neople more than most people, okay? I've given them a ton of praise. They've had an impeccable history of managing this game, but you know, it's because of this love that I have for the game that I gotta call it out where it is. They're not doing the game a service as of the past previous months in terms of their kind of tendency to go towards the KDNF path. They want to try to treat DFOG as if it's just KDNF. Now, on one hand, you know, I can see why they would want to do that, right? I mean, if you look at my latest joke video, you can see just how easy it is to copy and paste content. You make it one time, and then you tweak a few things, and then boom, brand new content. Why spend the resources making anything special when you can just release the same thing just a few months down the line? It just makes a lot of sense on their part. And honestly, guys, my complaint really isn't about the copy and paste job that DFOG receives. Little do some of you guys know that nearly all of the content that we get in this game are hand-me-downs from the other versions of the game, often from Korea, sometimes even from China, and really only on a few occasions, namely the Western town for the Western package, do I remember ever getting a DFOG exclusive that later the other versions got after we did. Aside from that, I mean, I think it's very rare to see something like that, pretty much as rare as seeing like a male grappler in the game or something. So no, it's not the content itself that's got me annoyed. It's the rewards that they're giving for doing it. The rewards are also being copy pasted over, and it's straight up a huge error. It's a huge error on their part, and they really got to realize that before, you know, we start getting the same exact updates with the same exact packages and all of that. And the reason why is the things that I mentioned earlier. You know, the things like the fact that KDNF and DFOG are completely different in near every single aspect. You know, our economy, and you know, I already mentioned it, the event history, our account life, the things that are in the auction hall, everything is different, so you can't treat them the same. Okay, so the bottom line is, guys, you can't go down this path. Neople has to realize that we are a completely different server with different game system, economy, problems, everything, okay? And you as a event designer have every opportunity to shore up those deficiencies with the event rewards. But instead, they've chosen to treat us exactly like KDNF and give us KDNF's rewards despite us not sharing in any of KDNF's features. So why the hell do they think the rewards are going to translate one-to-one for all the servers? It isn't, flat out, okay? Maybe KDNF getting a legendary transfer stone is something to be admired, since getting a full legendary set is straight up cancer, but it's not the case in DFOG. It takes you literally 2 days of like 10 minutes each day to get a piece with our 5+5 system. So why would any item be worth it to be transferred via the legendary transfer stone? It wouldn't. There are so many things that I think DFOG is lacking when you compare to the KDNF server, okay? Things like emblems for your avatars are pretty expensive and pretty rare in our version of the game. Things like enchants for our gear are massively expensive when compared to the KDNF server. These are the kinds of things that I want to see that can be shored up with the events of this game. They are problems that exist in DFOG, and yet those are not things that DFOG and Neople have been addressing. Things that they know can be fixed via event items. They're just ignoring them as problems and treating us like KDNF. That's why you can't do that. I mean, I don't know how many other ways I can explain that. Do you see how just changing that one little thing, taking more stock into your events, do you see how that one thing can completely change the attitude of the players of the server that are playing the game? You take just 1 second to actually make the rewards relevant to the server, and then nobody has any right to complain. In fact, everybody's going to be very happy that you have addressed a problem that you know exists in the game. Instead of being pissed like I am right now and everybody is right now, they would in fact be grateful and happy. And that has been the case for the past 4 years. That has been the case every single time they've actually given a shit about the events instead of copy and pasting them like they have been as of the previous couple months. Yet here I am having to explain the importance of making good events that actually fucking matter. Like I said, a problem that I haven't had to deal with in the past 5 years. So again, to conclude, guys, you, Neople, are going down the wrong path. And I'm here to correct you on that. Please take some more time into considering what you're doing for the DFOG server, okay? It's okay to give us better items or different items if it means fixing a problem that DFOG has. Exactly how you had 2 different gold sync events back to back was to solve the problem of there being too much gold into the economy of DFO. Well, for the same reason, you can make events that can also shore up any other problems that DFOG suffers from. Please do that instead of copying KDNF, because trust me, that laziness is just as lazy as my joke event video that I made for my male fighters, and it's very obvious and everybody can fucking see it. It's going to be like a stain on your newly painted car. But anyway, guys, we just wanted to rant a little bit, hopefully cover a little bit of what's going on with DFO right now. And, you know, we haven't been down this path for very long. So hopefully Neople actually corrects it. Hopefully Neople actually makes useful events again instead of copying KDNF. And hopefully we can see a DFO that has more to do in it and more reason and incentive to play it instead of giving people every reason in the world not to play it. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. There was my episode 12 of the Arad Airways podcast. Like I said, expect one next month as well. And I will catch you nights later.